What's going on, my fellow rock and rollers? Don't forget to hit the bell notification icon to be notified every time I put out a new video on my channel. I had previously covered a series of deadly concerts that the band Deep Purple played in Indonesia in the late 70s, but a decade and a half later, the country would be the site of another series of disastrous concerts featuring the heavy metal band Metallica. Local authorities would call it the Metallica incident, but what happened? Stay tuned to find out. It was announced in March of 1993 that heavy metal band Metallica would be coming to Indonesia for the first time and playing a pair of shows on April 10th and 11th. Indonesia is a pretty religious country. In fact, it's the most populous Muslim country in the entire world, but that doesn't mean heavy metal isn't loved by the nation's youth. According to greenleft.org, in 1993 metal music cassettes were found pretty much everywhere, mostly in a pirated fashion. In the weeks and a month leading up to the band's arrival in the country, there were reports of a notable increase in the country's youth wearing black tank tops and headbands. And the capital city of Jakarta in 1993 had a population of 10 million people, with more than half of the population being under the age of 20 and being underemployed or just not having jobs at all. A lot of young people would work in factories or as street peddlers, and there was a lot of resentment and hostility towards the country's ruling class. And even in the run-up to Metallica's concert in 1993, riots were a frequent sight. The ticket prices for Metallica's Indonesian shows started at $17 US, going all the way up to $75, which was considered quite expensive as the minimum monthly wage for a lot of young people was well below even the cheapest tickets. In addition to that, the venue only held 12,000 people per show, but some reports claim that 20,000 tickets were sold. So yeah, things were going to get real ugly. And Metallica were on tour at the time promoting their 1991 self-titled Black album, and the first of two shows the band played were marred by problems. Initial reports claimed both people who had tickets but weren't allowed in, and those who didn't have tickets tried to crash the gate, allegedly throwing rocks at concertgoers and security. The security got pretty heavy-handed, and the result was more violence and chaos. But also making matters worse was that the local promoter hadn't anticipated such commotion and didn't have enough security guards to police the event. Regardless of the tension outside the venue, the first show would go on as planned, with 6,000 police and army soldiers standing by to keep order. Up to 110 people would be arrested following the rioting, and 70 people were reported to be injured, including some security guards. After disturbances outside the stadium were brought under control, gangs of youths would go to surrounding areas, setting fire to cars, shops, malls, and even throwing rocks at upscale homes. Even the Minister of Justice would be trapped in his car during the rioting, with his windshield being smashed and the driver being injured. And the minister would also lose his cell phone and some jewelry to the mob. The bus carrying the band arrived and was immediately surrounded by fans. The military moved in with canes to clear the way. The rioting was ended after 1,000 Marines and military police came onto the scene, opening the gates to the concert, letting thousands of people in for free, with about half of those in attendance for the first show being paying fans. So according to some reports, even paying fans got screwed over. It was initially reported in the media that the riot and unrest happened because of class resentment, and the ticket prices for the event ran 10 to 50 times higher than the daily minimum wage of the average Indonesian factory worker, and the location of the venue was in Jakarta's wealthiest suburb. The government would try to quell and silence any ideas of class warfare, telling academics and intellectuals not to analyze the event excessively. Others in the country pointed at the ridiculous notion of the effect of heavy metal music on the country's youth, claiming it provoked antisocial behavior. There was even a third theory that the rioters were not fans of metal at all, but members of the Indonesian Democratic Party, which had apparently appropriated some of the symbols of heavy metal in their 1992 election campaign. Now, the second show that Metallica played went a little more smoothly as the government deployed 7,000 soldiers to police the event, but once again it was reported that thousands of fans who hadn't paid for the concert still got into the event. The local promoter would end up covering the $2 million worth of damage done during the rioting. Fast forward 20 years later when Metallica played Indonesia again, and talk of 1993 was once again in the local news. The government vowed not to have a repeat of 1993 happening again. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you guys later.